Story 1. If the person directly behind me on the bus sneezes or coughs and doesn't cover their mouth, it makes my germophobic skin crawl. Did we learn nothing during the COVID-19 pandemic? Story 2. When someone reads your phone screen over your shoulder without permission, please back off. This isn't a group project. Story 3. When people are losing their case in an argument, they often bring in unrelated personal information to validate their position. Story 4. Walking past someone taking a photo and being caught in the background means I will forever have an unflattering expression captured. Story 5. At large meetings, when you're sitting at the back, they make you move to the front seats, knowing full well there are enough people attending to fill those seats if they just gave it 5 minutes. Story 6. One time I was at the movies with some friends, and one of them went to the bathroom. When he came out, he made a beeline for my sweet corn and grabbed a handful with his bare hands. I couldn't eat it after that. So, someone else handling my food is a big no. Story 7. Being tickled causes me to react physically. I have always explained to new partners that it is a complete deal breaker. If you hold me down to tickle me, I will likely cause you harm in my attempt to stop it, and then I will leave. I cannot fully describe the intensity of my reaction. It results in uncontrollable sobbing, with me curling up in a fetal position, and I will never view that person the same way again. Story 8. Way too close for my comfort, and now it seems like we are in cahoots. Please don't whisper anything to me. Story 9. Being asked to do things for others can be frustrating. I don't like being forced into situations and chores I didn't agree to, only to be made to feel like the bad guy if I back out. If someone disrespects me enough to put me in that position, I no longer care about their low opinion of me. Story 10. It's mild, but companies are taking contact information that I provided for another purpose. We decided to sign your phone number up for marketing texts, and hi, hope you don't mind. I got your number from your customer record, and I just wanted to say you looked great when you came into the store today. Feel the same to me. Story 11. When people sit too close to me, there could be an empty bench, yet one person chooses to sit nearly on top of me. Feels like they have the whole bench available. Story 12. I feel so violated when I agree to plans with my parents, and then they think they own me for the rest of the day. I set time aside to have breakfast with you. Now you want to disrespect me and my time by taking me on every errand you've been putting off and to visit your uncle, who we won't leave until 1 a.m. I watched your sports match and said we could stay for an hour to support your team. Then you decide to drink and stay for another 5 hours, and I can't leave because I'm suddenly your sober driver. It's so dehumanizing. Do you even see me as a person or just a possession you invest money and labor into, expecting to reap your returns? Story 13. Apps that require your personal information, especially those that make you use a live camera, should be disregarded. Story 14. I was in a phone store with my husband getting something fixed on my phone, and the employee there discovered our accounts were not linked. He suggested that we link our accounts. He accessed my account and started asking my husband for his information, typing it in. My husband hadn't been paying attention and assumed this was something I had requested. I was trying to stop him and explain that I didn't want this, but the employee ignored me, focusing entirely on my husband, as if the situation was none of my concern while he made changes to my account. Once it was done, he told me that if I changed my mind, I could easily undo it at any time with a simple phone call, as if I were being unreasonable. It ended up taking 45 minutes on the phone with the service provider trying to resolve the issue. Even if it had been easy, I felt completely violated. My absent-minded husband, once he understood what had happened, was very apologetic for not realizing and also outraged in a way I found endearing. For all he knows, I've been abusing you and you're about to escape. I could use your phone to track you down. For all he knows, my husband has never abused me in any way, but he was right. That employee didn't know that. Story 15. I work in food service. My pet peeves that make me uncomfortable are customers touching my arm or calling me by my name as if we are close friends. It's different if it's a regular customer whom I see daily. But if we just met for the first time and you address me by my name multiple times in one conversation, I feel violated. Story 16. When someone adjusts my car seat after I let them drive. Why are your femurs so different from mine? Story 17. Having people grab the handles of my wheelchair and push me without asking for permission is not acceptable. This happens frequently in hospitals because many people there are using hospital chairs and require assistance. However, this is my chair, and I do not need help. It feels as if someone has grabbed you and is carrying you away. Even the brakes do not provide much protection if the person is determined. It is distressing and reminds me of how vulnerable I feel in these situations. Story 18. Someone calls me and tells me to hold on a moment while they finish a conversation with someone next to them. I hang up. Please do not waste my time. Story 19. If two people are on either side of me and having a conversation, I was on the bus a couple of days ago, and there were guys about 5 seats apart having a loud conversation. They should just move. Story 20. When people do not blow their noses, they either keep sniffing or sound like they are holding back something with their mucus. Story 21. My significant other has a habit of staring at me while I eat, and I can feel it out of the corner of my eye. I absolutely cannot stand it. Story 22. When strangers become upset when I politely tell them I'm not interested in chatting, whether at the airport, grocery store, or while walking my dogs, there always seems to be someone who wants to engage in conversation. I want to express that they are draining my energy. Why am I obligated to fill someone else's social needs? Story 23. Store staff approach me every time I walk down an aisle. No, I do not need help. I will approach you when I need assistance. Please leave me alone. Story 24. When my dog forcefully urinates on my new rug while making eye contact with me. This just happened last night. Story 25. Being in an operating room under deep anesthesia, with no control over what anyone could do to your body while you are exposed, is a vulnerable experience. Story 26. When I hand someone something and there is plenty of room for them to grab the object, they still manage to touch my hand in the process. Story 27. When people start asking rude questions or commenting on my appearance or behavior, such as, "Oh, you're quiet," "You look different than I thought," or "Wow, you must be hungry." Story 28. My ex used to walk in on me while I was trying to go to the bathroom. He thought it was hilarious. Story 29. People who talk to you and breathe too closely. Receiving a hug from someone I dislike. They ask me questions like, "When are you going to find a girlfriend? When are you going to have children?" Story 30. I passed my phone to a friend so they could add their food choices to the Uber Eats order. 5 minutes later, they were playing my games and replied to a text that just came through. Story 31. Standing over me while I eat genuinely makes me feel annoyed in ways I usually don't. Please move away. You are ruining this meal for me. Story 32. When I am telling him something and he interrupts with, "I know." How do you know if I am not allowed to finish speaking? Story 33. Making an assumption about me and then stating it as if it's a fact is frustrating. At a party, a girl directly assumed that I had an eating disorder and abusive parents, presenting it as a fact in a group discussion. Similarly, a guy told me I wasn't truly the religion I identify with, just because he said, "I'd never date a religious person." And I responded, "You know I'm religious, right?" He argued that I wasn't. How can someone else determine my beliefs? These are two significant violations. They both make me feel like my identity is subject to the opinions of others rather than my own. It seems I have no say in who I am. Other people decide what I am and am not. Story 34. A friend once picked up my sketchbook and started flipping through it. She had never expressed interest in my artwork, so it was particularly surprising to me. If she had asked, I would have shown her, but to just take it and look through it felt like she was reading my diary. Story 35. People act as if I am invisible when I am making an effort to talk to them and completely ignore me. In the end, I just walk away, knowing that there is nothing that can be done about it. Story 36. Being touched by someone's hand after they have just washed it, and it isn't dried fully, makes my skin crawl. Story 37. People talk negatively about me behind my back, especially when they discuss a situation without having all the information and form judgments before speaking with me. Story 38. 1. Speaking to me with poor breath or hygiene. Interrupting me while I'm speaking, especially with something trivial or irrelevant. Standing too close to me. Story 39. The happy waiter, a man in his 30s, kept touching my side and shoulder as he walked by. My date was surprised and said, "What the heck?" I assured her that it was inappropriate behavior. I finally broke the tension by asking my date why this guy kept reaching under my sport coat and touching my side. It made her laugh, and she ended up crying from laughter, calling it one of her favorite moments from our dating experience. It was New Year's Eve at an expensive restaurant, and the waiter had an overwhelming amount of energy. Story 40. If someone unlocked my phone without my permission and snooped around, even if it were my partner, I would consider it a violation of privacy. While I am not cheating and have nothing to hide, I would likely let him use it if he asked. However, it is a personal item, and accessing it without consent is a serious infringement. Story 41. When someone is searching for a picture on their phone and keeps scrolling to find it, should I keep looking? Should I look away? Will I see something inappropriate if I continue to look? Story 42. Pushing a superstition onto me. For example, it's very minor, but twice now someone has picked my bag up off the floor, put it on a surface, and told me it's bad luck to put your bag on the floor. I am not superstitious. I don't care what you do with your own bag, and I don't mind if you have to move mine for an actual reason, like cleaning the floor, but please don't make me follow your belief. Story 43. People commented on what I should do with my body. When I was younger, I had 3 complete strangers approach me in the gym and suggest how I could look more attractive. They told me I would look better if I leaned out and suggested that I should stop lifting heavy weights because it would make me bulkier. All of them were men I had never spoken to before in my life. I told them all to go away. Story 44. Being tickled is not something I want. I do not want you to touch me or place your hands in intimate areas on my body. I am not enjoying this. My reaction is one of distress. However, none of that matters because you find it amusing. Story 45. Joey doesn't share food. If I'm getting food, I will offer to get anyone with me some if they want it, such as my girlfriend, sibling, or friend. They often say, "Nah, I'm fine," and then try to pick at whatever I got. No, I offered you your own portion and you declined, so you don't get any of mine. Now you have to go get your own. Story 46. I had experiences during my hospital stay that made me feel upset and violated. The feelings were similar to those after a serious sexual assault. Examples include being forced to shower with a nurse supervising instead of waiting for my sister or friend to arrive and help, which disrupted their schedule. Carrying out procedures without fully explaining them or providing incorrect information, meaning I could not consent. Making serious mistakes, such as losing the cap for my intravenous line and inserting it incorrectly, refusing to assist me to the bathroom, and instead making me use a commode in a shared room with other patients and visitors of both sexes present, examining my legs without asking for permission or explaining why, opening my gown to perform an electrocardiogram without prior consent or notification. The list goes on. Took me almost a decade to recover. I avoided changing in front of anyone, even my mother or sisters, for years afterward. Story 47. ASMR videos on YouTube are disturbing. It seems like that is the noise some individuals make in their homes when no one is watching. Story 48. When someone takes food off my plate or something I am eating without asking me first, it is frustrating. Story 49. At the end of another 40 to 50-hour week, when my boss comes in to reprimand me about a special project that inherently takes more time, they ask why it is late and why it wasn't started sooner, stating that there is no excuse. They neglect to mention the 50 other projects that were routinely submitted on time without any issues, acting like the fate of the company hangs on this one project that other companies won't touch due to its complexity. This makes satisfying one client, who comes to us twice a decade, a top priority. Apologizing and saying I would do what I could to complete it as soon as possible made me feel extremely undervalued. Story 50. I am being called out for not participating in work potlucks. It's not that I am unwilling or don't want to cook for my coworkers. I have just seen how clean the laboratory is. I'm not eating your warm beef dip, Michelle. Story 51. When I am listening to something on my headphones and someone starts talking to me without giving me a chance to shift my attention. Story 52. People are breathing heavily near me. Why are you huffing and puffing? It feels like the mentality of the big bad wolf, trying to blow me down as if I am made of straw. Story 53. When you are sitting in an area with plenty of open seating and someone comes to sit right next to you, it sends a chill down your spine. Story 54. I recently had my floorboards replaced, and before the joiner left, he used my toilet without flushing properly. Story 55. I don't enjoy cursing, but this once let me say, I am frustrated. You don't get to touch me, ever. Some people think it's okay to poke me in the side. I will not tolerate it. Story 56. When I ask if someone wants a taste of my food, they take the biggest bite I have ever seen or sip until their mouth is full. Story 57. People touching my pregnant belly. I understand that you want to feel the baby kick, but please keep your hands to yourself. Story 58. My mother would often see me reading a book or flipping through a magazine and grab it out of my hands while asking, "What are you reading?" before I could even react. After she looked through it herself, she would toss it back into my lap and walk away, often not on the same page or even close to where I had been reading. It drove me completely nuts. It was so flippant and disrespectful. Story 59. Getting creatively hijacked. Homaged without acknowledgement or credit somewhere. Story 60. I'm a server, and many older customers, usually men, gently grab my arm or pat me on the back to get my attention. Most of the time, I don't believe there's any malice or creepy intention behind their actions. They are simply socially unaware. However, I always firmly tell them not to do it again. Fortunately, the vast majority apologize and refrain from doing it a second time. Story 61. I know it is irrational and my own problem, but I absolutely despise comments that point out how slowly I eat or how much or little is on my plate. Story 62. When I start a one-on-one conversation and the other person includes the entire group to comment on something private. Story 63. When people need to get around you, they may put their hands on your hips and physically move you to the side. Just say, "Excuse me, there's no need to touch me." Story 64. Being touched when I do not consent to it is significant for me, and I mean it in a non-intimate or non-sexual way. I dislike being touched by anyone other than my closest friends and a few family members, currently just 4 people. Even a simple pat on the shoulder, a handshake, or a casual hug can be uncomfortable for me. Story 65. People leaning too closely over my food and asking, "What do you have for lunch?" Well, I hope it's not your spit. Story 66. I was hit as a cyclist by a motorbike that ran a red light last week. The driver stopped, and I received plenty of help afterward. However, the unfairness of having a green light and still being affected feels violating. Story 67. I had my diary read once by a friend without my knowledge. It was one of the worst breaches of privacy. Story 68. People touching me when it's unnecessary, like friendly touches on the shoulder or unnecessary hugs, makes me uncomfortable. I don't know you like that, so please keep your hands off. Story 69. Touching me without my permission if I am not extremely close to you, such as tapping my arm or shoulder, is inappropriate. These are just small common gestures. Story 70. When someone goes through my drawings without my consent and then shows them to everyone else, it feels like I have been stripped bare and slapped. Story 71. People touching or rearranging my things causes stress. Even in the bathroom, my husband understandably becomes frustrated with my clutter and tidies up, but this increases my stress because I struggle with object permanence. If I cannot see or remember where I placed something, it feels lost to me. Even moving items around on the same counter is triggering. Story 72. People who bring up a personal issue they have with you in public instead of trying to resolve it privately can be quite disruptive. Fortunately, this has not happened to me many times because I like to believe that I am fairly kind and diplomatic. However, some individuals seem to thrive on drama. I have witnessed similar situations unfold between other people, and it affects me the same way as secondhand embarrassment. I feel discomfort on their behalf. In some cases, I am fine with this approach, but only if I know they genuinely tried to resolve things privately first and the other party was unwilling to listen. Story 73. When someone starts smoking next to me, my reasons for displeasure are twofold. First, I used to smoke and I don't anymore. Second, the smell is a huge turnoff. If I smell marijuana, I feel very nauseous and I just walk away. Story 74. I dislike having my picture taken. When I casually tell people, I don't do photos, to give me a moment to step out of a group shot, they suddenly try very hard to capture one of me. It seems to become a funny challenge for others to snap a photo. I've had to cover my face with my hands for far too long on multiple occasions, only to see that someone took a blurry picture of me trying to hide. I have my reasons for not wanting pictures of myself, and I believe I shouldn't have to explain myself to have my privacy respected. Please don't do this to others. It's inconsiderate and makes you unkind. Don't be unkind. Story 75. People may attempt to assassinate your character to make themselves feel better about who they truly are. Story 76. When I try to close the door on them, they push it back open and don't let me close it. My pet peeve is especially those annoying individuals who knock on your door, like religious solicitors or door-to-door charity representatives. Story 77. Someone is talking to me while being very close, even though I am inching away for better personal space. Please stop coming so close. I can hear you. Story 78. When people touch my belongings without permission or enter my room without knocking, I dislike it immensely, and it makes me want to move to a deserted island. Story 79. When my doctor informs me that I need a procedure, only for my insurance company to deny the claim because it is not medically necessary. Story 80. I was born with several wires crossed. I experience solar sneezes because the visual nerve and the nerves in my nose responsible for my sense of smell are crossed. I also have the nerves in my stomach and abdomen intersecting with my nervous system's main lines around the spine. If I eat too much, I have panic attacks, and if I get poked in the side, it causes a knee-jerk reaction that can hurt me due to the involuntary recoil of my organs. If you poke me in the side as a joke and I kick you in the face, I will apologize later. Just know you violated my personal space and it hurt. Story 81. High-pressure salespeople refuse to let you say no, especially in car dealerships when they do not return your keys. Recently, I was with my young children, and after sitting there for 2 hours, they needed to eat and were crying. The salesperson was not giving me my keys back and told me there was a food truck down the street. I almost lost it. Story 82. When people ask to see my tattoos and then proceed to touch them, especially if they are a stranger or someone I have just met. Story 83. When people tell unnecessary lies, I understand that we all lie when it is necessary, but unnecessary lies are a violation. Story 84. I had an old acquaintance send friend requests to my entire friends list on Facebook. She then created a post tagging any friends who accepted and attempted to pitch her multi-level marketing opportunity. After that, I made my friends list private. Story 85. When a family member is on the phone and unexpectedly hands me the phone, they expect me to take over the conversation. Story 86. My parents have a habit of moving things in my space, which frustrates me and makes me feel a little violated. I arrange my belongings for a reason. Story 87. When I'm in the middle of a story and my friends decide to interrupt me, they then act like I'm the one being rude. Story 88. When people become so stubborn that they can't stand losing an argument, it's frustrating. When someone shouts my name from another room, it irritates me even more. I prefer they come to me instead of shouting. Story 89. Whenever someone calls my phone, it feels like a demand that they speak to me immediately, no matter what I might be doing. This is especially true when they call twice in a row. I appreciate it when someone texts me and asks if they can call when applicable. Story 90. I once saw a therapist in law school, and he told me, respectfully, you are the most textbook case of adult attention deficit hyperactivity disorder I have ever met. Honestly, I felt exposed, like I was standing in the middle of Midtown. He didn't need to do me like that. Story 91. A friend recently found my Reddit account. Not that I post anything unexpected or out of character, but it felt very violating. Story 92. Throughout my life, at any family gathering, My mom would inevitably choose to laughingly share the worst things I have ever done. 39 years on, and she's still going strong, no matter how many times I ask her not to. Story 93. People standing too close, especially when talking to me. Please step back. I don't want you spitting on my face. Story 94. Grocery clerks speaking in a different language and having a conversation in front of you. Story 95. Don't touch my shoulders. I really don't understand how people don't mind that. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.